this morning, the US House of Representatives passed the Equality Act. And of course, that is a bill that would protect LGBTQ people from discrimination in housing, the workplace, public accommodations, and other settings. Now, of course, this amends the Civil Rights Act and fills a major gap because you may not know that currently there are no federal laws protecting LGBTQ Americans from discrimination. So this means legally, someone can be fired from their job, evicted from a home, or kicked out of a business just because an employer, landlord, or business owner doesn't approve of the person's sexual orientation or gender identity. Now back to the bill, because yes, the Democratic House passed the bill, but that is not the end. And that's because, of course, it faces tough odds in the Senate, which is controlled by Republicans who generally oppose expanding LGBTQ rights, making the bill very unlikely to actually become law. Still, the House's vote moves the country in the right direction, and advocates are celebrating this moment because it's the first time the legislation has received a full vote from either chamber of Congress. For them, it's a sign of the progress LGBTQ rights have seen over the years, from greater social acceptance of LGBTQ people to the victory for marriage equality.
So this is great in a lot of different ways, but we might have some disagreement on this because I am still conservative judicially. And so there's a part of this fight that unfortunately I don't agree to. So first, Bill, fantastic. And yeah, I don't often say that about bills that Democratic leadership proposes, but here it's a layup. There are no corporate interests against it. In fact, there might be some in favor of it. So it's easier for the corporate Democrats to come on board, but great, I'll take it. So you wanna join progressives on this fight? Wonderful. And I don't agree with the political analysis that it will not pass the Senate.
Really?
Yes, so now the Republicans are usually dead set against every Democratic proposal and do not believe in equal rights for members of the LGBTQ community. But some Republicans have had a come to Jesus moment, if you will. Like Rob Portman from Ohio. Why? Because he found out his son is gay. He's like, when your son was gay, I didn't give a damn, and I was gonna take away all his rights. Now that my son is gay, I'm conservative. If it affects me, then I care. And so all of a sudden now he's in favor of those rights. Well, you just lost the Republican senator there. And there's a couple that are up for re-election in states that are purple to blue. So they're gonna get jittery about this. Besides which, the whole country thinks that this law should pass. This is a stunning fact. Not only is this above 50% in every single state in the country, but it is overwhelming. Did you know that this law, the idea of LGBTQ people having the same rights and being protected in the workplace, housing, and in public accommodations is so overwhelmingly popular all across the country that even in Mississippi and Alabama, it polls at 59%. So there's actually no reason on earth why the Republicans should vote against it, except for the fact that their whole identity and party is based on hate.
Right, it's Republican identity politics, baby. I'm telling you, it's in a lot of ways it's no different than what they're trying to do with the abortion ban. It's the same. They're trying to separate themselves from the Democratic Party because when it comes to material redistribution, both the Democrats and the Republicans are on the same team. They're on the side of the corporations and the wealthy. So they have to separate themselves in a meaningful way. And that is the culture war stuff that they do. And this is a part of that, where they're like, oh, well, we should just keep giving businesses the right to discriminate if they want to against LGBTQ members. And then this conversation will most likely turn into trans people and how this is impacting businesses and their religious freedoms and whatnot. They're just going to try to spin this as much as possible, despite the fact that most people understand that this is ridiculous and these protections should have been offered a long time ago. So my point is, if you are one of the few Republicans who is watching this show right now and you vote Republican, and you are of the mindset that maybe LGBTQ members should have the same protections and equality under the law, but you realize that Republicans aren't doing that, think about why. Why aren't they listening to their constituents? Because they have to distinguish themselves somehow from the Democratic Party. And this is the way they do it. And unfortunately, they're usually much more effective at doing it because the popular vote is on the side of the Democrats, and yet they're still largely ineffective. The fact that we're having this conversation in the year 2019 is preposterous.
So look, I want to give even more clarity to the polling that I refer to and Haas is referring to. So you might say, well, look, maybe he polls at 59% in Mississippi, but maybe it's because that's 99% Democrats and still a minority of Republicans, and it got to 59. No. So nationwide, when you look at it, 79% of Democrats are in favor of gay people having the same rights as straight people. And specifically on this issue, public accommodations, housing, workplace, they should not be discriminated against. 70% of independents, so that's a huge number, but also a majority of Republicans. 56% of Republicans say, yes, they should have the same rights and they should not be discriminated against in those specific instances. So Hassan is right. The Republican senators are going to say, I don't give a damn not only what the country thinks, I don't give a damn what my voters think. I'm gonna vote against it anyway. Why? Because I distinguish myself by being the party of bigotry, hate, in this case, homophobia, etc. So I am the exclusionary party. I want to build walls. I want to build them everywhere, and I want to keep other people out. And I don't want them to have the same rights, freedoms, and liberties that I have and the people in power have. That is the point of the Republican Party. And if you don't know that, well, wake up. Look at how they vote. Don't worry about what we say. Look at how they vote. So in this case, what is going to be their excuse?
Freedom for private enterprise, like they're going to use the counter example of, well, you wouldn't let a Nazi actually bake you wouldn't let a Nazi customer make a Jewish baker make a Nazi cake, and it's like that's not that's not a reasonable comparison, because being a Nazi is not the same as being gay or being trans.
Right.
Like, it's not a protected, it's not a protected category, and it shouldn't be, because one is just a hateful ideology, the other is just your state of existence.
That's right. And so, and Haas is right, and I want to get to your question in a second, Brooke. What they're saying is, well, in order for us to say yes to something that the huge majority of Americans agreed to, we're gonna have to extract a compromise. So what's your compromise? We want to allow businesses to kick people out of housing, to fire people, and to not let them into their restaurants, et cetera, if they're gay, if that business owner has a religious objection to gay people. But wait a minute, are there a lot of atheists going around saying I can't stand gay people and I want to discriminate against them? Maybe some, but not a lot, right? No, the whole basis of the discrimination, and this is an uncomfortable fact, but it's a fact nonetheless, is religion. If we didn't have Islam, Christianity, the major religions saying that a man shall not sleep with a man, we wouldn't have this problem at all. And so it is like, if you put that as your loophole, well, that kills the whole bill. I mean, who else wants to discriminate against gay people? So the Republican idea is, no, okay, I hear you, no discrimination, except for the people who want to discriminate against gay people. Then what's the point of the bill?
Right.
That's not a compromise, that kills the bill. And so it's hideous through and through. But go ahead, Brooke, on the question.
Because you said something at the top of this. Is there something about this you disagree with?
About the overall fight on this, yes. So good people make a legitimate argument in the courts that, no, you don't really even need this bill, because the current anti-discrimination laws cover the LGBTQ community anyway, because you could say that it goes under the category of sex. You're not allowed to discriminate based on race, religion, sex, or disability. And they say, look, it's not a gender issue, but in a sense it is, because it's an identity revolving around the issue of sex. And so it's a creative argument. I applaud them for that creative argument, but I want to stick to what the laws say, because that judicially, if we go beyond the law, conservatives can go beyond what the law actually states. And I'm not in favor of that. So as much as I love this bill and I love this legislation, and I want to pass through Congress and every other body, I don't agree that if you go to the courts and say, let's just say that discrimination against gay people is also illegal, but it doesn't say that, and the people who passed that bill did not intend that, and we all know it. So that's my issue there.
Okay.
But if we get this passed, you don't have to worry about any of that. You don't
have to worry about that, right?
Yeah. Thanks for watching this free clip of the Young Turks. Don't forget to become a TYT member today. For more exclusive content, join now at tyt.com/join.